Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this button-up bracelet with beads. And this is what it looks like. So all these little knots are the individual button knots, and you just stack them on top of each other, and you can add beads as you would like. And I've also made the closure using the same knots, and it's adjustable. So if you want to learn how to do that, then keep watching. Now to make this bracelet you'll only need a few things. The first thing is we'll need some cord, and in this case I'm working with some 2mm satin cord, and I just chosen a purple colour because I like purple, but you can really use anything. I just do recommend that you use a thicker cord for this type of knot. It just makes the knot stand out a bit more, but obviously it's personal preference. And then this little smiley guy is the beads that we'll be using. These are just some 8mm stardust rounds in silver, and I just chose them because I thought they would go nicely. The only thing, you can really use any beads, the only thing you have to make sure of is that the hole is large enough to take your cord through. So get your things together and then let's get started. Now to start off making this button knot bracelet, you first need to cut off your length of cord, and all you need for this is one long length of your 2mm satin cord. The length can kind of vary because obviously it depends on what size you need and also whether you're adding beads or not. If you're adding beads, you can use a bit of a shorter length because obviously the beads are going to take up the space where you would have put a knot. But I would say cut about 2 to 2.5 meters of your cord. 2.5 if you just purely want to use knots on your bracelet. If you want to add beads, you can cut off a bit of the length. So you want to start off with your length of cord, and then what I've done, I've left one end just like it is when I've cut it off, and then the other end I've just used a lighter and then singed the end and then rolled it between my fingers. Obviously be careful because it's hot, but you can do that if you do it gently. First of all, it's going to make it easier to go through your beads, especially because this is 2mm satin cord, so you might struggle to find beads with a large enough hole, but this can help going through your beads. But also it kind of gives you a bit of a form of needle to help you make your knots as you go. So I've just done that to the other end, as this is the end that we're going to be working with throughout. And then we want to start making the knots on this end. So this button knot that we're going to be using in this bracelet, at first glance it does look a bit complicated, but when you break it down actually it isn't. You just got to learn the technique of it. So we're at this end, the kind of end that we cut off and not singed because we don't need to, and just leave a bit of space just for you to hold on to and for you to use at the end to finish off your bracelet. And then what you do is you grab the other side of your cord and make a loop like this with it coming over on top. So you have a loop like this, and then you do the same thing again from this side, make another loop again coming around and on top. So you always like loop it around with the loose end coming on top of the rest, and there you have two loops that are kind of overlapping each other. And then what you want to do is get the end of this long piece of cord, and then this is where if you cinch the end it can help a little bit, because now what you need to do is weave in through these loops that you've made. And the first thing we do is we want to go down, because you have your cord coming out from above. You want to go down through the first loop here, and then you want to come up through the middle loop. So you're looping like this first. So down through the first one, up through the middle one, and then back down through the last one again. And then just try and get it in between your fingers, still holding on to where your loops are crossing over each other. And then you just want to pull this long length until you get your third loop like this. And don't worry too much about the different sizes because we'll be tightening up the knot when we're done. This is just so you can have your openings to weave through. So it looks something like this now. And then the next step is to make our last loop. So to make the last loop, if you look at your loops that you have now, you'll see that they're kind of forming a pattern. And what you'll find is you have this loop in the middle, basically, right here, where there's basically the crossover where all your loops are crossing over each other, and we need to use that one now. So what we need to do is get the end again, and still, first we want to go down through the first loop, but then what you want to do is come behind the next two cords. So go behind them and then come up through the middle loop, like so. So you've now skipped behind two cords, and then we pull it again, and that's our fourth loop. And now it just kind of starts to look a bit of a mess, but this is now where we want to start tightening the knot. And you just do this gradually, a bit at a time. Now this being the first one, it's a little bit easier to tighten, but you just follow the path of the cord basically around until you get a nice tight knot without pulling out your cords. See, so we're gradually getting a tighter knot. And this is just a matter of fiddling around with this basically. As you can see, it's gotten tighter, like so, and now we're starting to get something that looks like something. So this is your first button knot, and what you can do is just go over it again, find a starting point. I always try and find the one, this one basically, where if you pull it through you could pull this out. Obviously you won't be able to continue to do that, but in the first knot you could pull it out, and then go from that and basically follow the path of the knot to get it nice and tight. But that's your first button knot. So now we need to make some more. So now to make the next knot, and we have the first one here, and we're going to be continue using this, the long length of cord that you have, so working this way. So that's why you just left a bit of a tail here, just so to have something to hold on to and finish off at the end. But then we continue making the next knot, and you basically just do the exact same thing. The knot being there doesn't make anything different. So you grab your long length of cord, you make that first loop, like so, grab it again, make sure the loose end comes over, grab the long length, make another loop, come over again, and then you grab the end of that long length of cord and you go down through the first opening, up through the middle, and then down through the last one again. So you're basically weaving through all the loops in and out, and then pull that, and then grab that cord along with the others, and then you get this, your 3 loops crossing over each other. And then to make the last loop we need to get our end again, and then weave down through the first loop and then skip 2 cords behind them and then come up through the middle opening where all your loops are crossing over each other, like so. And again we just pull that to where you then have your 4th loop, and this is where you can let go and you have this kind of mess again. But then this is where you want to start tightening the knot. So now you'll find is that piece that comes down through the middle that's coming out from the previous knot. When you start tightening, by pulling that, you won't be able to pull the cord through because you have this other knot to stop it. So that's the one I normally start with and hold on to, and then I follow that around and then gradually tighten it. Just follow that all the way around. And you won't get it completely tight the first go around. That's why at first I just tighten it so it becomes a little bit more manageable and looks like something. And then you go around one more time to tighten it up properly. Like so. That's the first go around. So you can see it does look a bit more like something. We just need to tighten it completely and have it sit right next to the other one. So I'll find that one again, and it's usually coming out, it's always coming out right at the top here, and that's the one that's attached to your first knot. So I hold that with my finger and then follow the path around. Now this is where it can get a little bit tricky, but once you've done a few knots, you kind of learn the path of the cord and you kind of figure out where the next one is. You kind of know because you learn how it is. And just tighten it as you go. And the reason that I pull that first one cord, the one that's coming out from the previous knot, is to get the knot to sit as nice and close to the first one or the previous knot, so you don't really see too much of the cord spacing in between. Obviously if you want to have a piece, a length of cord in between your knots, then that's fine, then that's your choice. But if you don't, you just try and get it as nice and close to the other one as you can. Working your way around. Like I keep saying, following the path of the knot to tighten up. And then we got to the last one where we then can pull the loose end and the long end. Pull that tight. And just check if everything is right and nice and tight. If you're not quite happy yet, you can always go over it one more time to completely tighten it up. But otherwise, then that's your knot, your second knot. And you now have two right next to each other. And then obviously, you just continue, you do another one, you start your next knot. And then eventually, if you want to add beads to it, all you do is simply get your end, and then add a bead to it, feed it all the way down next to the knot, and then make your next knot next to the bead. So how you want to add your beads obviously is a design choice for you. How many knots you want in between your beads, that's completely up to you. But that's how you make these knots. So I've now made 4 knots right next to each other, and I decided that I want to put a bead here. So I want to have 4 knots in between my beads for now. So thread it on one of my stardust beads. You can obviously use anything, and I just push it all the way down right to the knot, the very last knot, and then you just continue the same way, making your next knot. And then with this one, I just want to show you a little tip. So you make your 2 first loops, go through, sew in and out, pull it tight so you get your third loop, and then get the end again, down through the first one, skip behind 2 cords and up through the middle, like so. And then you just do the same thing you grab the one that's coming out from, this case, the bead, and then go around tightening it up. First go around and normally just you tighten it as much as you can just to get it a little bit tighter, and then now I want to go around again but try and tighten it as tight as you can. So find that first cord again that's coming out from the bead, pull that and push the others kind of down, and then work your way around again. Follow the path of the cord, with it getting gradually tighter. While kind of trying to push and hold the knot down close to the bead, or and one of the other knots if you're doing it after a knot. Tightening it all the way around. And then we can pull the loose end, because that's the last loop now, like so. And as you can see, I'm still not quite happy with this, it's still a little bit loose. But what you'll find is that you might find it's a little bit hard to get in there with your fingers. So a little tip is, again, find that first piece, but then to get some chain nose pliers and then actually use them to pull your cords tight. So follow the path again, because you can get a little bit more in there with the very tip of your chain nose pliers. Like so. Keep going around. All you want to do is just be a little bit careful using them, because you want to try and not damage your cord if you can avoid it. But just grab it nicely and pull it gently, but still you can pull nice and tight, because that's what you want to do. Follow it all the way around. And as you can see, you can get right in there in little spaces that you struggle getting your fingers or nails into. Follow the path, find the right if you kind of struggle, where's it going now, you can always pull it at the other end and see which kind of piece of cord is moving a little bit, and that'll give you a hint as to where to go next. But like I said, you'll probably eventually, after doing a few knots, kind of learn the path and you'll know which space is the next one. So as you can see, working your way around, and by using the very tip of your chain nose pliers, you can get right in there a lot better, and you can actually, I feel personally anyway, that you can get the knot much tighter than you could otherwise. And the last loop, pull that just with the end of your cord, and then there you have another knot on the other side of the bead. So that's just a little tip to help you make them nice and tight and even. And then all you do is just continue. I'm going to make some more knots, add another bead, and like I said, you can do it with or without beads. That's completely up to you. So I've now finished making my knots and adding my beads until I reach the length that I want my bracelet to be. And I've just ended up with 5 beads and 4 knots in between each bead. And now I'm going to show you how to finish it off. Now you have a couple of different options of how to finish off your bracelet. You can either use something like cord ends, so put one on each end, and then use fine things like a clasp and extender chain to finish it off. Or you can use the actual knot that you've used throughout the bracelet. and it'll become adjustable. So I'm going to show you how to use the knot for this one. So to do this, you want to grab your bracelet, both ends, and then put your cords going against each other like this. And then you need to have enough length on both ends, which is why you need to leave that tail at the beginning. And then we need to basically do another knot, but make sure to incorporate the other cord in the middle of it. So the way that we do that is, I'm going to work making my knot with this one first, and then I'm going to do it around this one. So what I'm going to do is to make the first loop, but I'm going to make sure to go underneath first, and then above, to make it around the other cord, so it looks like this. And then the next loop, do the same thing, go below first and then come back above. So here you have your two loops, just like with the original knot, and this is where we want to go down in the first loop, up in the middle loop, and then down in the last one again, where we're weaving in and out of the loops, which then creates your third loop, like so. And then get the end, weave down through the first loop, and then up through the middle, like so. And there you have the loose knot. And now what you want to do is, before you start tightening this, we need to make the knot on the other side. What I would say, I will tighten it just a little bit, just to give you a little bit more length if you need it. But you don't want to tighten it too much, because you want this to be able to go back through. So you want to have an obvious hole. So what I'm going to do is take this one out of the knot that I've just made. You can make the knot without having this one in. It's just to guide you so you know where to put it back in. So you leave an obvious hole there in the middle without tightening it too much. And you know that's where you need to put this cord back into. So now we need to do the same with the other side. So we start by taking the other end, holding this one that we're going to make the knot around. Go underneath first, and then back above to create the first loop, and then back underneath, and then above, and there's the second loop, and then down in the first loop, up in the middle, and then down in the last one. So weaving in and out. And then tighten that so you get your third loop, and there you have the exact same type of knot you've been doing throughout. You just have this cord running through the middle. So just kind of try and ignore that, really. If you can, just make sure to keep it in there. And then to make the last loop, goes down in the first loop and up through the middle loop, like so. And there we have the other loop, the other knot, sorry. And now this is where you want to start tightening them up. And you just do this the exact same way. I'm going to tighten this up first, because what we just need to do to this end, the one we took out of that one, we need to put that back in before we tighten that knot. Tighten it up in the exact same way that I would normally do. So grab that first bit that's attached to your previous knot, making sure you keep that cord running through the middle inside the knot, and going around. Now this might seem like it's a little bit fiddly, especially if you don't have that long length left. But it's basically just this exact same knot, just where you have your threads in the middle, or cords running through the middle in opposite directions. So That's the first one. It's not completely tight yet, I'll go over that again. But before I do that, I'm just going to go and do the other one. And then what I want to do is grab the long length that I've got left that I made this knot with, and we need to put this back through, down through the middle, before we start tightening this knot. Like so. And then we can start tightening this up just like we've done throughout the whole bracelet. And like I said, it can be useful using the chain nose pliers or something to help you grab hold of your cord. Just going all the way around. Tightening up the knot. The first go around where we're just tightening it a little bit, I'm going to go over it again. And we're about there. And pull that one. And as you can see, you've got your cords going through your knots so you can open and close. And obviously I'm just going to go over and tighten up these knots. But I'm not going to show you that because I showed you that previously. So just tighten these up properly so they're flush against the other knots. And then that's almost your bracelet finished. So I've now tightened up my knots. That's going to make the adjustable part. And as you can see, you can now use it to open and close. That's nice and adjustable. Now all there's left to do is to just finish off the ends of your cord. And again, this is kind of personal preference. You can either make a knot a bit further down, so you have that adjustability. If you leave a bit of space, make one of these knots a bit further down, and then cut the length of the excess off and cinch the end so it stays in place. Or you can add a bead and fasten that with a knot at the other side as well. So really that's personal preference. I have an example of how you can do that in how to finish off a macrame bracelet video that I've done. I'll link that in the description box. But then otherwise, then that's your finished bracelet with the adjustable part. And quite seamless. So there you go, you have your button knot bracelet with beads added to it. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make these easy drop earrings with wire. And this is what they look like. So I've just attached the drop to a simple regular earring finding. And this is what it looks like from the front and the back. So it looks nice all the way around. And this is just using a round gemstone.